Haggerty and John Haggerty and Liam Harrison on the same bill does make the sort of make it a little bit exciting, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, I think if we throw Nico Corello into the mix as well, I mean, how cool is it that there's, you know, I mean, obviously,
well, I didn't see you refereeing anymore, and then I heard a rumor that you had damage.
A legend in the sport. I mean, you know, and I think obviously with his involvement now with One has given myself and obviously some of my colleagues a massive opportunity.
Inspiration, spokesperson for Muay Thai.
Right. So obviously I mentioned Liam Harrison. Yeah. I think that when I got the call, I mean, I literally was just, you know, Rob called me up and said, look, you know, we did a poll. Apparently, I mean, obviously, yeah, you're right. Every fight, I mean, it's what we say as trainers, isn't it, to our fighters when they lose? Oh,
like what key memories stick out for you for being a business owner?
You know, I'm the poorest I've ever been, but the happiest. I think the one that sticks out for me, and he probably won't thank me for saying this,
from Greg Wotton, and that was where does the gym slogan MDK come from?
It was just the most amazing experience of my entire life too.
And how involved is Chatri Sitchatong with the events on the Friday? And if you don't mind me asking, what is your personal thoughts on the 3 rounds and the 5 rounds? Are you going to see a kickboxing bout come on? I literally just want to skip forward because they're not wearing MMA gloves.
Yeah. So I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. Jesse, welcome. Thank you very much for coming along today. I much appreciate it. The first in my podcast. Got no idea how this is going to work out. Basically, because I wanted to do a podcast telling the story of other people in the industry, people that have been in it a long time. The people in the behind the scenes, not necessarily in front of the scenes, that have been there for a long time. You know what I mean? Not like, you know, oops, let me put it on, shut that off. That been in the industry for a long time, and I believe I've got, you know, interesting and valid stories that the current generation should know about. You know, like they just see you as a referee or as a judge, but they don't understand where you came from. You know what I mean? And so, so it's really good to have you here, Jesse Saunders, ONE FC ref and judge, official, Shinkick Muay Thai for God knows how long. I'm going to get into that. Obviously a former fighter as well, and I want to get into that as well. And it's, you know, you've refereed on fucking shows all over the world, right? So you've been in the game for a long time, and everyone's familiar with your face. And I'm proud to say that I believe you're a friend of mine, and we've known each other for a long time.
Yeah.
And because I'm completely dyslexic and whatnot, and can't remember shit, I've got everything on a piece of paper. So excuse me, I'm going to be able to read from my notes. Yeah, but first of all, I wanted to if you could tell us about how you got started in the Muay Thai industry.
Yeah, sure. Well, I was 14 years of age, so 1985. You can work out the maths on that, how old I am. I was at school, I was very small. I was called Jesse, so I got picked on a lot. And a friend of mine at school was Thai. And back in 1985, there wasn't many minorities, if you like, in the school, and he pretty much was the only minority in our year. So he got picked on an awful lot as well. So we became friends. And then his parents owned a Thai restaurant in Guildford. And he had a cousin come over from Thailand, live here, and he was a former fighter. Pachit, his name was. And so Nick, that's my friend who was Thai, just said, oh, look, we're doing something called Thai boxing. Give it a go. I'd never done any kind of martial arts before. So I went along. We trained 1 hour a week with a guy who couldn't speak a word of English, which was quite fun. This is around the time that obviously you had Sken, you know, Toddy, Woody, Master Bob, all those sort of guys around. And so Pachit sort of was on the back of that. And so a lot of what we were learning was very sort of flashy stuff rather than what we kind of know as traditional Muay Thai, really. But it was still fun. It was still good. Did that for about 3 years, and then he decided not to. There was only a few of us training. And then I found Woking Thai, ran by Mick Murphy, a legend of the sport. And then, yeah, the rest is history, I guess, from there. Just started training there and then got into fighting and so on.
Yeah. Tell us a bit about your fighting career. How many fights did you have?
God. My fighting career wasn't brilliant, if I'm really honest. I had 28 fights in the end. I only won 9, 16 losses and 3 draws. So not the best record. But But to be honest, I was never really, I wasn't kind of a fighter in the sense of go for it. I enjoyed it. I loved it. I loved the whole process of it, getting in there and having a fight. But if I'm really honest, I think I just missed an ingredient. And you know yourself as a
Yeah.
trainer, certain fighters can have lots of certain qualities, but they're missing that heart and that hunger and that kind of, fuck you attitude of like, yeah. And I never had that, so I kind of enjoyed it until I got punched in the face, and it was like, oh. So yeah, I'm pleased with that. I managed to get in the ring and managed to, have some fights, and I fought some good people and stuff. But and I managed to have 3 fights in Thailand as well, which was that was near the end of my fighting career. So I was really pleased I managed to do that as well, just so I experienced, full rules, for example, because of course back in those days, no one fought with elbows really in the UK, or it was very rare. So yeah, that's pretty much my experience in fighting, really. So.
Yeah. I always found that from my experience of losing and winning, there was always a lot more to be gained from losing in regards to what you learned from that.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, yeah, you're right. Every fight. I mean, it's what we say as trainers, isn't it, to our fighters when they
Yeah.
lose? Oh, you're going to learn from this, and it is true. But I think if I'm really honest with me in my fighting career, I mean, I think at one point I was like in the early days, I was like 6-1 or something, and I was doing okay. But then as the level stepped up, I wasn't. Yeah, but then I got used to losing, and I think that's a very dangerous slope for fighters. And again, as trainers, you now can see that. But as a fighter, you're like, no, I want to fight again. I want to fight again. I want to get that next win, and you lose again. And and it just it got to the point. I remember fighting. I think my last fight in the UK was against Leon Chevalier. Obviously, he was KO and stuff, and lovely guy. And I lost that fight, and I remember then just going, I can't do this anymore. This is ridiculous. This is absolutely. I just every time I think I'm doing really well, and I think that's when I made the decision, right, I just want to, I think I was 32 then, and I just thought, I want to get into coaching. And I was kind of helping teaching some of the younger guys at the gym anyway. So that's what made me sort of go into coaching, sort of change my direction of, where my sort of, where I wanted to put myself. And yeah, and I think that was a good move for me then, So yeah, I think,
Yeah.
yeah, as I say, the fighting career side probably not as good as many, but
Yeah. I mean, I think from the things that I experienced from losing, and like you, I didn't have an amazing record,
mm,
um, but from a perspective of when you became a coach, you're able to intuitively tell what your fighter's going through at a specific time. You can see them going down that slippery slope of of negative thinking and negative self-talk or whatever that's going on internally, and you I think a coach that's coming from a perspective of maybe they didn't have a fantastic career has probably got more tools within their arsenal to help the fighters that don't have that great sort of natural killer instinct. And so that's what I kind of believe is really key to for a coach to be able to see that in their fighters. I mean, like I always kind of say that great coaches don't make great champions don't make great coaches, but great coaches make great champions. It's like it's kind of if you're being coached by someone who's just been a winner all the time, it doesn't necessarily know they haven't got the full package in regards to teaching.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And I mean, it's something I've said many times that, some people, well, there's coaches out there today that maybe even fought, or maybe just 1 or 2 fights, who have gone on to be some of the best coaches in the UK. And in the same breath, yeah, get former sort of world champions who aren't very good coaches. So yeah, I think there's a different mindset for coaching. I mean, but I think, like you said, I mean, it's important, I think, from a coach's point of view, to maybe understand what it's like to go through that, and just have a little bit more empathy and sympathy with how a fighter's reacting. So yeah, I think definitely my experience as a fighter has obviously helped me as a coach. But yeah, I think it's not. Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's some coaches out there who've never even fought and gone on to be teach, train world champions. So
Yeah, and obviously you had a very strong relationship with Woking Thai.
yeah.
But when did you make the decision to step away, and when did you open Shinkick?
Well, what happened was, I mean, I still have a very, very, very good relationship with Mick and Woking Thai anyway. I mean, we always have done. What happened was I got divorced in 2005, around then, and my dream was always I wanted to have my own gym. And so the original plan was that I wanted to open a full-time gym, but as part of Woking Thai. And Mick was sort of behind me, but a lot of the other guys at the gym were really, oh, how's this going to work? Is it going to? And in the end, they all kind of decided actually it's probably best you just do your own thing, and in hindsight, they were right. They were absolutely perfect, very correct. So yeah, so I started the gym in Old Woking, which was, I mean, because Woking Thai trained just a couple of times in a leisure centre and maybe a boxing club or something. So they didn't actually have their own full-time gym. So like I said, my dream was to have a gym. The first gym was an old shed in the back garden. There's no nice way of putting it. It was an absolute shithole. I mean, it was,
Is that the one I came to?
that was the shed at the back. Yeah. I mean, it really was. I mean, it's like the kids of today at the gym, at my gym, will go, oh, it's a bit cold, or it's a bit. I'm like, you have no idea. But no, so that's what I did. So I had a normal job when I used to have a real job in life, and I I applied for some loan. I made some rubbish excuse to the bank about applying for a loan, and I just somehow blagged it. I've never run a business before in my life. I just handed my notice in on my job, and I had quite a good job as well, and just thought, nah, so I'm just going to do it. And it was a life-changing moment. And I think, back in May 2007 is when we opened. I've never looked back. I've always, there's been times it's been really hard, and I mean, especially through COVID. I mean, nearly lost it a few times then, but I don't know. It's almost like I'm in control of my own destiny now. Whereas when I had a normal job, and someone else is almost controlling you a little bit. And obviously, it's my passion. It's what I love to do, like yourself. And having your own gym it's just fantastic. And I mean, over the years, I've made some of the best friends in the world through that gym. And so that's where it kind of started. To say 2007. I mean, as I said, the relationship with Woking Thai was very, very strong. Me and Mick are very close. He's like my second father. He really is, and incredible man. Obviously, Chris Batchador's obviously, he's still at Woking Thai, and we're very close as well, and we work well together. I mean, now I've moved the gym to Guildford. We're a little bit further away, but still a lot of their guys will come train with me, and we're going to train with them and stuff like that. So it's a very, very strong relationship still there, which is nice.
Nice. Saying that though, do you have any really fond memories of like what key memories stick out for you for being a business owner and a gym owner? What's the highlight moment?
I think, I mean, again, one of the little phrases I'll keep saying to people is, I'm the poorest I've ever been, but the happiest. I mean, before I did it, I had a nice, well-paid job. And so to suddenly go from, I mean, I remember sort of when I handed my notice in and had to give back the brand new BMW, and then I've grabbed hold of some £200 Fiesta, and I'm like, oh, what am I doing? But stand-up moments. I mean, as I said, I'm in control of my own destiny. I like the idea of that. The fact that I'm doing my passion and my hobby for a living. I mean, how many people are lucky enough to do that? So they're sort of massive highlights. I think also, I mean, I suppose if we look at highlights from success at the gym or what we've achieved, I've managed to, it's a team effort really. I've also got some great guys who have been there. But I think for me is some of the guys I've trained who've come from the gym have then gone on to be very good coaches or big figures in the sport. When you look at Dave Fensom has his own gym, Scott Corra has his own gym. Obviously Carl Greaves is arguably one of the best MCs in the country. Richard Robinson came from my gym, who's one of the best judges in this country. Ali McConey, who's now works in production on One and lives out in Thailand. Sam Goff, obviously, I know he's retired from the sport, but again, achieved a lot as a fighter out in Thailand. So I've both forgotten someone now and I get yelled at. But the thing is, there's a lot of people that's kind of really heartwarming to me that they've come through my gym and then been successful themselves and moved on. And again, we still have a real good connection and good friendship, which again, I think is important.
Yeah. I mean, from my experience, you, Jesse, is probably one of the nicest people in this industry by far. Always smiling, always happy, always got great energy. But obviously, for me, like on like I've made mistakes as a coach in my time, and it's felt like a pretty thankless job. And I was just wondering if there's times that you've had to overcome certain circumstances in it or in the gym where it's been like, do you know what the fuck am I doing this for?
Yeah, I mean, it's been many times. I mean, I think, like I said, there's been times when the gym's not been doing well financially. Like I said, I'm the worst businessman. I really am. I'm not good at business at all. So, so there has been times where it's been very, very close to going under, and we've managed to sort of keep it going. I think from a coach's point of view of things that maybe I've got wrong, and we've all done it. You're right. We've all maybe taken fights. I think the one that sticks out for me, and he probably won't thank me for saying this, is Ali McConey when I put him in against Adrian Maguire. And at the time, Adrian had beaten one of my fighters, Che Nam, then lost another one of mine called Scott Collin. And then I think they wanted Che again, but he wasn't available. And so Ali was only had a couple of fights. He was a lot, but he had a lot of potential. I thought, so I thought, we'll be fine. We'll stick him in. And it was one of those fights where I'm just like, oh no. And he just got absolutely, I mean, Ali's tough as nails and he took it. And I think the ref stopped it in the last round. But that's probably one of those fights where I looked at myself and thought, why did you put him in there? It was too much too soon. I mean, I have, at the same time, I've put fighters in where people have gone to me. I mean, a great example is Sam Goff. I know when I put him in with Ryan Lee from Team Chew, and everyone was like, what are you doing? Because obviously no one really knew Sam, and Ryan was a monster. And Sam beat him, but again, everyone was like, and I think sometimes you do get it right as a coach. You think, no. And a lot of the boys would probably tell you that, I sometimes will put them in hard fights, but I always put them in hard fights that I feel they can win. But the odd occasion, if you put them in and they've just been so, as a coach, you don't feel guilty because then responsibility comes down to us. If we've put them in, we've taken the fight, we think it's a fight our lad can win, and it's very, but when it's been a time when I put them in and then actually it was a really bad move, then I'm quite hard on myself as well. I will take responsibility. So but I say it's one of those things, sadly.
Yeah. No, I've done that once myself with a fighter called Wayne Ward. I regret putting him in with the fight, and like
I
afterwards.
Wayne Ward, he was right. He was good. He was
good. Yeah, him and his brother. And next Ryan fought a lad from Team Chew the same night that Sam Goff did. Yeah, and my guy and Ryan was underrated, and he spanked their guy as well. What's the future for Shinkick?
Hopefully, keep going, more success. I mean, we moved to a new location during COVID. So what would that mean? 2020. So we're now in Guildford. We were in Woking, I say, since 2007. The premises we've got now, last January, so January 23, we took over another part of the building. So the gym itself is about 5,000 square foot in total. We've got 3 training areas. I sublet one to Tim Radcliffe's BJJ. So we have boxing, MMA, and so on. So we've kind of grown in that sense. We're doing a lot with the ultras, like the ultra boxing, the ultra MMA. That's working well for us. Seem to have a really good team around at the moment. There's a lot of good guys there. So everyone's pulling their weight in that sense. So I think the future's looking good. I mean, fight-wise, we've got some good young kids coming through. Got quite a few lads coming through that are sort of 15, 16, 17, having their first, second fights who've got a lot of potential. So that's quite exciting. I mean, it's always again, as a coach, you probably know, when you've got a fighter coming through that you see the potential, almost like you see it before anyone else. And I love that. Now I know this kid's got, I've got one lad, well, there's a few actually, I probably shouldn't single anyone out in case, but I've got one lad in particular at the moment, he's only 15, and he reminds me of another Sam Goff. He is tall, lanky, disgusting knees, really good. But again, very quiet, just gets on with it, doesn't say anything, but he's just got, and he's having his first fight in about 3 or 4 weeks' time. And again, I love that. I love looking at these guys and seeing where they're going to go. Even with the young kids, again, when you see them coming through, I think also with the young kids as well, I think as you see them grow into adults, it's also quite rewarding. but yeah, I think the future for the gym seems to be going in the right direction. From a business point of view, we seem to be going in the right direction. I've got silly things like I've got a really good reception team now. In the past, it was almost like we'll just blag it, whoever's happened to be there. Whereas now it's quite amusing. But I've actually got a team of receptionists. One's my mum, one's my girlfriend, and then we've got a couple of others as well. Well, one's Kyle's girlfriend, and we've got another couple of girls. But what's great now is we've got a real good team, making sure that everyone who comes in pays. And that sounds a stupid thing to say, but it's so frustrating. And so and so that was an area which I wasn't really. I don't know if I didn't care. I just wasn't really bothered about it. And then it was like actually started looking at it, thinking, hang on a minute, why was the memberships going down? And you find out that people hadn't paid or cancelled a debit, and we didn't notice, and so on. So thankfully that's a good thing. So yeah, I think from the business point of view, the gym's it's going in the right direction, which is nice.
That's good. Yeah, you mentioned the name Carl Greaves a few times, and he's always. When I think of you, I always think of Carl as well. And obviously, when I used to do shows back in the day, you had Carl as an MC and yourself as a referee. But you got obviously a very strong bond as well.
Yeah, I mean, we are like a married couple. I mean, it has to be said. I mean, my girlfriend and his girlfriend. I think we're married to two people or whatever. I mean, but no, he's. I mean, as much as he's as you say, it's a character. He's he likes to push the envelope and likes to kind of cause issues sometimes and just have fun on social media. But genuinely, he's one of the nicest guys I've ever known, and he's got a real heart, and the things he's done for me over the years. I mean, I met him. It's quite funny because he walked in. I opened the gym May 2007. He walked in September 2007. And I prayed he'd never come back again. When you get someone walking in the gym, and you're like, oh my God, this guy's a complete idiot. Please don't come back. But he kept coming back. And in the end, and then what happened was, I think we started going out, becoming friends. And then he basically needed somewhere to stay. So I had a spare room up at, in the flat above the gym. So then he moved in, and then it went from there really. But no, he's good, and I think as an MC, he's phenomenal. He is incredible. So he's doing a great job there as well.
Yeah. I haven't seen him for a long time, but he was always. I just remember him always causing trouble on Facebook.
Oh, of course, yeah.
So what's the dreams and the goals? I mean, someone did actually. If I can quickly try and find it, because someone asked me a question to ask you. Which you've already said the where the fuck did I put the question? Someone asked me it. Fuck me. I had it somewhere, but actually there was one question from Greg Wotton, and that was, where does the gym slogan MDK come from?
Ah, right. Okay. So yeah, I mean, what happened was 2001. I think it was 2002. The story actually isn't that funny, but it kind of one of those that it was funny at the time. But basically, I went to Thailand. I think it was 2001, around then, and no, it was 2002, and I was having my first fight in Thailand. As I said, I hadn't fought in Thailand before, and it was kind of a big thing for me. And we were out in bizarrely, we're in Koh Tao, and I went along with a few friends of mine. One of them being Mr. Alex Reed, and another mate of mine, Ian Stewardson. And we basically went out there. Anyway, I was training, they were all drinking and whatever. Anyway, I had my fight and sadly lost it on points, but it was okay. It was a good fight, did really well. And then before then, sort of during the day, we had been watching Demolition Man, which, and the film obviously has a code 187, MDK, murder, death, kill. So that's kind of where it sort of came from. But what happened was we went out that night, got a bit drunk, and it sounds awful thing to say really, but basically I got into an altercation with someone, a local, and so basically I've come running back to the hotel, and I've woken Alex up, and I've gone, I think I've killed someone. I was genuinely really worried. I hadn't killed anyone, just to be clear. And there, obviously there's this guy, but he was fine. And anyway, so basically then what happened was for the rest of the holiday, and then when I got back, they were sort of all going, oh yeah, Jesse got 1 MDKs, and it just went from there. So of course the whole thing about what happens in Thailand stays in Thailand. We don't talk about it. think I've been in the country half an hour and I get a phone call going, oh, MDK. So it kind of went from there. And then Mr. Joe Colville, one of my fighters, when I started Shinkick, he wanted to have MDK on the shorts for him because he loved the thing about it. And so I thought, well, I might put it on all the shorts. So that's kind of where it came from. So like I say, the story's not actually that exciting, really, apart from me killing someone. But it's, yeah, that's kind of what happened. And then it just kind of went from there. And I mean, it was quite amusing because it got to the point where everyone started calling the gym MDK rather than Shinkick and stuff like that. But so yeah, so the story's not as exciting as it probably could be, but the movie's good. So,
Still a good story.
Yeah.
It only seems right I should take this opportunity to promote some of the things that I do. One of the things I do is I run a gym. I've been running for just around 5 years now, Circulate Fitness, which is based in Battersea. We run a Thai boxing and kickboxing inspired HIIT class. The classes run for 50 minutes. We've got roughly 5 to 6 classes a day. We have classes at the weekend as well. You can find us on ClassPass. And we're very competitive in regards to our class fees. We offer packs and even a membership if you want to go down that route. We also run traditional Muay Thai classes. We do that 4 times a week, and we have a boxing class as well. So check out circulatefitness.com for all the details, but the link's also going to be in the description of the show. Thanks, and back to Jesse.
So obviously, you said you spoke about fighting in Thailand. I ended up in Tip one time, and Tip came to my knowing through Tim Isley from Cobra Gym, and he, as far as I understand the story, Rob Cox used to train at the Cobra Gym in London with Tim before he moved to Thailand.
Yeah.
How did you? Because like you're that. My gym is Lamai Muay Thai, so I always train there 22 years now. I've been going there back and forth. I'm not going to train anywhere else. And I'm assuming you had the same relationship with Cap on Tip. How did that come about with Rob Cox?
I think actually I think I met Rob obviously a few times in England first before he moved out. I always remember my first ever show around 98, 99. I think he was there and I think the guy he was with jumped in and took a last minute fight and broke his leg. So it was all. So I think that's probably the first time I really met him. And then I think when he was at Khao Sem Rit, I went out there and so met up with him and did a little training there. And so that's kind of how I knew him. And then obviously from the Axe and stuff like that, good old Axe kickboxing back in the day. So that's how I knew him. And then what was obviously then when they started Keep on Tip, obviously with John Pop was still there and stuff. Yeah, I just wanted to go out there and train. So I started going there a bit more regular. I mean, I can't remember how many times I've been, but normally I'd only do 3 or 4 week stints or something like that. It wouldn't be months and months and months. I couldn't really do that, obviously having a gym. So I trained a lot. It's kind of weird. I did more training and probably learned a lot more once I stopped fighting. Yeah, sort of probably mid-30s, late 30s was when I sort of really, I think, learned a lot more. The gym, I think, is fantastic. I absolutely love it. And what I loved about it, I mean, I've been very, very lucky and fortunate to have gone to a lot of gyms now in Thailand. I mean, good friend of mine, Anuj Bari, who runs the Muay Thai Holidays, he, he's taken me out there a couple of times and done little gym trips to kind of look at other gyms, which is great. And I think it's good to experience other gyms. Like you just said, you go to the mile all the time and stuff like that. And I was only going to Keep on Tip, but I think I've looked at others and you think, okay, well, that's actually quite good there, or that's, there. I mean, even spent a couple of days at like Tiger, for example, and I know that's that sort of gym that's very commercial, and but they've obviously got some, but because it's such a big commercial gym, there's a lot of negativity towards it, because obviously people class it as a touristy gym. But to be fair, I'm glad I went, because again, I could see, actually, it's not what I thought, and it's actually better here or better there. But yeah, I mean, I think with Keep on Tip, what I loved about it was, apart from the fact they're incredibly friendly, obviously Rob's amazing in the sense of, he's, they've got a nice team there. The food is phenomenal. Miss Tars, like Rob's wife, oh my God, the food's incredible. You're literally living in the gym. It's a very kind, there's a lot of Thais, so it's not just full of foreigners. You've got a lot of Thais there as well, and obviously they've got a good level of fighters. I mean, they've had a bit of a dip in recent few years, ever since I think in COVID. I think a lot of the gyms did, but I think they're kind of getting busier again now. The trainers are amazing. It's just a good atmosphere and it's nice. And I think where it is in Salio, it's got a good probably half an hour way outside of the city. So even though there's a little village and stuff like that, there's not too many distractions. There's not too many bars or like that. So it's quite nice to go there, train twice a day, 6 days a week, just live there and just, yeah. So that's what I loved about it, you know, was the fact that I could just go there, just train, wouldn't go out really, just almost like get myself back to some sort of fitness and so on. So yeah, I mean, I think, and then obviously, yeah, the relationship with Rob, I mean, you know, obviously he's, you know, a legend in the sport. I mean, you know, and I think obviously with his involvement now with One has given myself and obviously some of my colleagues a massive opportunity. You know, sort of Chris Bachelor and Rich Robinson, Ricky Saul, and Jack Kennedy. I think Richard Wayne's coming out tonight for his first time. You know, so some UK officials have obviously that's solely through Rob really, which is fantastic, and the same with the fighters as well. You know, again through obviously Rob's connections with that as well. Obviously, a lot of British fighters have probably got the chance to fight on One that maybe wouldn't have done. So again, he's done a lot for UK sport, UK Muay Thai and the sport. And I think that One itself has done so much for Muay Thai. I really do think that as well. So, but yeah, I think yeah, I mean Rob still at the same time does take the piss and like you know, yeah, can't help but take the piss out of him. But no, he's a good lad.
Well, it brings us on to obviously One Championship. So I can when Friday Fights came on the scene, I was just like, this is going to change Muay Thai for sure, 100%. And then to see familiar face come up on there, and you obviously refereeing and stuff like that. But how do you feel it's changed Muay Thai since it started in January last year?
I mean, yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, when I got the call, I mean, I literally was just, you know, Rob called me up and said, look, you know, we did a poll. Apparently, I asked all the officials and asked lots of people in the sport who they felt the best ref in the UK was, and like my name came up, and it's quite funny because when I would say Chris Bachelor because I think Chris is phenomenal ref. And it's funny because we're friends and we kind of, you know, support each other. And when I got the job, the first person I thought of was Chris. And I was like, but what about Chris? You know? But yeah, sorry, I do sidetrack a lot. I do apologise.
No,
yeah.
I've got questions here. I'm having to like literally scratch off.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
The questions
I mean, but going back to the one, obviously, how it's changed.
Like
I mean,
reading my mind.
But I mean, it was it was just the most amazing experience of my entire life to be on the first one as well, and to have, you know, to be the first British referee at Lumpini, which was wow, you know, just, and the first fight I ref was Muay Thai, who I'm like, oh my god, you know. So, and I've never been so nervous as a referee. I honestly, I was, and it's weird because I think it took a few shows to kind of relax and get into it and, you know, feel more comfortable. But I think what it's done for Muay Thai, I mean, I think obviously having a weekly show at Lumpini, showcasing some amazing fighters, is getting it out there more publicly. You know, I think there's more, the general public are knowing more about One, and again through that learning about Muay Thai. I mean, you do get the people who obviously go on about the fact it's 3 rounds, it's in 4-ounce gloves, so it slightly changes it. You know, there was a recent debate on social media about the difference in scoring in Muay Thai, and one was, it is Muay Thai, it just happened to be wearing 4-ounce gloves and it's over 3 rounds. It's still scored the same, but of course, because you're wearing 4-ounce gloves, the effect from punches is a lot more than an effect from a 10 or 8-ounce glove. So that's why it looks like it's different, but it's not. It's just still on effect. It's still on, you know. But I think that with Muay Thai in general, I think it has again brought more exposure to the sport. I think for the fact, for example, things like obviously One doing a deal with Amazon Prime in the States, again, huge exposure, you know. So I think, I think it's good. I mean, I know, like I say, I appreciate there are people who don't maybe like that, and they like the, you know, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm a purist. I love the Y crew and the Runway, and I love the 5 rounds and stuff like that. But I think we have to be honest and say, as a general Joe public going to watch that, they're looking, well, they're just tippy tappy for 2 rounds, fight for 2 rounds, and then run away for rounds. You know, so, you know, from a general public's point of view, it does look boring. It doesn't, you know, a 2-minute rest in between each round, and so the gamblers can get going. And whereas I mean, in all fairness, I mean, obviously, one day, but then when you look at Thai fight or you look at Max Muay Thai, or they all started doing the 3 rounders and just trying to make it a bit more exciting. And I think it is. I think, sad to say, if you ask someone who just goes to a Muay Thai show who's got no experience of Thai boxing, they're going, well, what's that music? Why are they like doing a little dance before? They don't understand it, and they just want to see action. And I think that's where one especially, but also other sort of shows have brought that. It's made it more exciting. They have to fight for the first bell. There's no filling out process. There's no like coasting at the end. They go for it. And I mean, one of the things I was said as a ref when I first got it was just keep the action going. Just keep the action going. You want them to fight. There's none of this sort of sitting back. So I think from that point of view, I would say it's improved Muay Thai as far as to the audience, and that people are, people who maybe hadn't heard of it or maybe hadn't been as accepting of it and now more accepting of it. So.
When I first came on, we saw you refereeing, and then it got to a point where I didn't see you refereeing anymore, and then I heard a rumor that you had damaged your back.
My knee.
Your knee.
Yeah, my knee. So what happened was I did, like I said, every show I was going out every 2 weeks. So I did Lumpini 1, 3, 5, 7. And as I went through them, it was brilliant. It was getting better. Like the last, I felt I was in my own place now, and I just felt very much comfortable. Like I said, the first one I was so nervous. I won't lie, I thought I ballsed it up. I thought, they're not going to have me back. Because even though watching it, I didn't do anything wrong, there was no mistakes, I know how I can ref good. And I just felt, oh my God, I wasn't right. By the fourth show I'd done, I felt so at home. So the fifth show, and it was weird because about a week before I went out, my knee was a bit niggly. I was like, a bit sore. So when I saw physio and he gave me a few things, he said, yeah, it's fine. So got in the ring, and then the first fight I was reffing was a girls' fight. And basically, I think one girl pushed the other and she went to follow it. So I've jumped in as you do, because I've leant off this leg, felt it go straight away, and I've done my MCL and my cartilage. And the pain was unreal. Because we're trying to keep going, the fight ended not long after that. And then Rich Robinson was working as a judge, and he just looked at me and was like, you okay? I was like, no. So I got out, and I was in so much pain. And Timo and Rob, Timo's another one of the guys, obviously runs the Friday night ones, and he come up, and I was going, I don't know. He said, well, don't worry. And I said, no, I've got to do one more. I've come all this way. I said, let me ref one more fight. So I got in, and it was awful. And I was literally limping round. And I mean, especially at that level, you can't, so absolutely I was devastated. And and then they sort of said, don't worry about the rest, because obviously got like 3 refs anyway. And then so I was out for quite a few months, and then I went to hospital, saw physios, everything else. And then I think it was Chris said to Rob one day, he went, why? Because they were struggling to get sort of good judges, and he went, why don't you ask Jesse? He teaches the judging courses in England and all this sort of stuff. And so I was a judge, and I mean, I've got to be honest, I'd rather ref, but sitting there judging is still phenomenal. It's incredible. And I think I had to almost like change my judging style a little bit, because again, it was actually almost harder to change the way you judge on one than reffing. Because again, like I said, with the 4-ounce gloves, you have to look at the effects on everything, not rather than stepping back and just body kicking like we're used to in the UK. And then also, sort of just the way they, that you have to watch the fight a little bit differently. And so I had to sort of like slightly change it, but yeah, I loved it. And obviously, thankfully, I've done a couple of main shows as well now, and obviously, I got to judge. I know Rod Tane, Superlek, for example, and stuff like that. And and it's quite. I mean, but it doesn't matter if you're doing a small show in England or doing one. You still get people who are going to say you got the decision wrong or don't agree, and which is quite normal, as a judge. But so yeah, but that's what happened with my knee. I had it operated on November. I did put a little self-pity post up a little about 3 or 4 weeks ago, but saying I'm still gutted because I had it operated on. The surgeon even said, there's damage in there that we can't reverse. So I'm still doing all my rehab. So I'm trying. I've been speaking to certain people who've been sort of recommending me things and saying, try this, try this. So I desperately want to come back, but I can't run. And the running's the one thing I always love doing. So that's a bit frustrating. So yeah, I'm desperate to come back. I want to ref. I mean, I did ref a couple of fights on a show, Jeremy Bailey's show in Basingstoke, and I jumped in just to, because Dave Zetolowski was reffing, but he had a fight, so I jumped in and did two. Well, he's got his fighters, a lad called Aaron, and he's all over the place. He's one of these bouncers, and at one point he come bouncing towards me, and I thought, I'm not even going to move, because normally I would have jumped out of the way, but I thought, I'm not even going to risk the leg, and he just bounced into me. But it was nice to jump in and do a couple, but I was so conscious of this, and I think this is where a lot of the refs in the UK, you know, I mean, when you look at, obviously I mentioned Chris Batch, Ricky Saul, obviously. I think Steve Broom's a brilliant referee. He's really coming through now. Scott Robinson's a good ref. You know, there's some good ones out there, but we're all very close to the action. We're all, you know, explosive. We're kind of ready to jump in. Whereas I'm sure we've both seen referees where they sit right back and they're not jumping in. But I think that's what, I mean, if I was one of those refs who just stood there like in the other corner, then I'll probably get away with it. But you can't. You've got to be so hands-on. So that's why, to be blunt, I won't. I mean, there's no way I'll be able to ref on one until that's absolutely 100%. So fingers crossed it will happen.
But you'll be back.
I want to be back.
I always remember one of the first things I was taught before I started fighting was there was 3 people in a fight. There was you, your opponent, and the referee.
Yeah.
And you better hope he's on your side. Yeah. What was your favourite fight you refereed for one?
For one?
Yeah.
Dear gosh. I say I don't feel I did that many, to be honest, and that there wasn't any. I mean, I would say probably the Muay Thai fight, the first ever fight I refed, was just the experience, the fact it was on the first ever show, all that pressure, all that nerves, and then after the fight, thinking, thank God, okay, I've done it. You know, I haven't messed up. You know, so I think, yeah, probably that one. Also, Muay Thai's a bit of a hero of mine, anyway. So you know, I remember seeing him fight years ago, and you know, sort of Raja and you know things like that, and just being wow, this kid's amazing. So that was quite good. I think. I mean, I know this wasn't on one, but one. I think one fight that I've always said is one of the best fights I've ever refed, in the sense of literally watching them in awe, was when Paco fought Litwada in Ireland. So Martin Horgan got him over, and again, massive Litwada fan, and I love the way he fights. And just watch. I mean, I don't think I had to jump in once over 5 rounds. I mean, they were just. It was like they're so professional. I just got on with it, and that was pretty amazing. I mean, there's obviously lots of names I've refed, and you know, there's certain ones. I mean, there was always a running joke about Sanchai, because I was supposed to ref Sanchai in Ireland when he came to Ireland. I broke my arm a couple of weeks earlier, and Kyle got to MC it. So it was a running joke. They go, remember that time you nearly got to ref Sanchai? And so it went on for ages. So then he was fighting on Yokkao in Italy, and I got a call. Me and Kev Harper, also Kev Harper's another good ref actually. Me and Kev Harper got the call to go over and ref, and we're just there to ref. And what we were told was, we're the referees, the Italians are going to provide the judges. And they went, so I was like, right, Kev, I've got to ref Sanchai. I can't take this abuse anymore. He's like, yeah, no problem. So we get over there, but a couple of the Italians wanted to ref as well. And I literally just went up and I went, and I was like, I'm reffing Sanchai. You don't understand. I have to ref Sanchai. And so, and they all went, okay. So I finally got to ref Sanchai. He fought Christian Faustino, and just amazing, absolutely incredible. So sublime to be that close to him and see the tricks and everything else. And a funny story actually as well, the next day they had like a little junior show on. So they asked us to stay behind and help out with all this kids stuff. And so me and Kev stayed behind. Sanchai's walking around getting pictures. And I'm not a groupie. I never go and get pictures of anyone. I've always gone, I'm not that sort of person. I said to Kev, I said, well, should I go and ask him for a picture? And go on. As I walked towards him, Sanchai just went, referee, you want a picture? And I was like, so Sanchai wanted a picture with me, just so we're clear.
How do you think the impact of one is having on the fighters with such possibilities and making like the bonuses that they are for the one show, and obviously with the possibility of going on to the one main event and getting the big contract? I mean, like sometimes you just sit and just watch in awe as these guys literally try to take each other's heads off. You know, the use of hands compared to the you seem to use their hands a lot more than anything else. They're looking for that knockout, that 10K bonus. And it's life changing, right?
I mean, I think that's it. And I think this is why I get a bit annoyed when, I mean, there's been a lot on sort of social media recently knocking one, and certain groups sort of almost like trying to dig it. And it's like, well, yeah, they're sort of raised the bar a lot. And obviously, I mean, in Thailand, because they're paying the fighters a lot more money, it's made all the other promoters have to pay better money. And most of them are. So then you kind of go, well, they almost had that money anyway, but they, you know, sort of think so. I think it has changed. I mean, when you look at the UK side, obviously, when you look at John Haggerty, Liam Nolan, Liam Harrison, you know, Nico Corello, and even the other ones sort of who maybe sort of appeared on there, people like I know Jacob Smith, or you know, they've all they've got their biggest ever paydays. You know, so obviously that's phenomenal. It's fantastic. I mean, and it's always been the one thing about Muay Thai, isn't it? That we've always said, oh, you know, when you look at boxing or MMA, especially UFC, they're getting paid lots of money, and yeah, a Muay Thai fighter trains just as hard, probably harder, as a proper fight, and gets 400 quid. You know, I mean, but the argument was, well, yeah, but we love it, and there's no exposure, there's no TV, there's no money. Now you've got a situation where there is a bit of money into the sport. There is, you know, it is growing and growing and growing. And it just seems very strange that some people will kind of almost not like that, because you think, well, that's what we want. And it's lovely to see. I mean, this Friday show, Dave Cook's fighting an MMA fight, you know, a British lad. You know, I remember watching him fight as a kid, you know, things like that. And to see these guys get these opportunities is fantastic. So yeah, I think, and obviously to get on the main show is the biggie. And again, actually, as well, what I love watching is when we're there and you see some fighter from Thailand who's probably had 100 fights, you know, and suddenly he's got a fight where he's getting paid a lot more money than he probably ever would normally. But what it means to them if they get a bonus, or if they get, I mean, to watch when Sexan fought Tyson Harrison on the first one, you know, and I think they gave him a bonus and stuff, and it's life changing for him, you know, and it's beautiful because you see how much it means to them. And I think that's quite, I mean, for example, I mean, not that it doesn't mean it to them, but if you've got, lots of, I don't know, say Haggerty or Harrison or whatever, they get a bonus. Yes, obviously they love it. It's great. It's fantastic. But the mindset from us would be like, oh, I might get a new car. You know, for a Thai, that's like, I can buy my parents a house. I can buy, you know, I can put my kids through school. So I think it means different to different, you know, nationalities, I guess. But it's still absolutely beautiful to see, because I mean, I think it's, you know, it's good for the sport.
Yeah. And how involved is Chatri Sitchatong with the events on the Fridays?
I don't really obviously know. So, I mean, obviously the few times that, I mean, he was there on the first one and stuff like that. I think I managed to just smile because it's like he's such a presence, and it's what was interesting was how everything has to be, the detail is particular. You know, everybody's making sure that everything's in the right place and so on. But what I was quite noticeable, as I say, he kind of walked past us and sort of almost like nodded and smiled, and we all smiled back. And I turned around to Elias, one of the refs, and I said, "Shan't you ever speak to us?" He said, "He spoke to me once when I got something wrong." You know, so the case of like, he's on it. But what I notice is he's watching every Friday show when he's not there, and I think he's making comments to some of the guys there, and to make sure that everything's running smooth. So he's still hands on, still very much is aware of everything that's happening. But obviously, there's a lot of people below him, but everyone all works really hard together. So there's an element of very professional. You know, everything's got to be just right. You know, but at the same time, it's a real good team sort of feeling. And it's lovely afterwards. We all obviously have a beer and stuff afterwards outside the back of Lumpini Stadium, and it's just a great team. It feels really everyone's together, and I've instantly felt very welcomed on that. So, but yeah, I've not actually ever spoken to Chaudhry, so you know.
Well, you get the feeling he's present in some degree, because sometimes you'll see a fight where two guys literally go hammers and nails for 3 rounds, and you know, like they literally fought their heart out and they've left nothing, you know, out, and you know, and they'll announce that both fighters will get the bonus, which has been, seems to have been authorized by him.
Oh yeah. I mean, like I said, he's watching every single show. You know, I mean, you know, he's obviously been to a couple, but of course, I mean, there's probably lots of other things going on and stuff. But no, he's very much. And do you know what? When they give a bonuses to both, that's beautiful as well. But when you've got a situation like you just said, it's happened a few times when fighters have gone back and forth. They've really, it's almost like the loser doesn't. It's like, and so when they give them a bonus, it's beautiful. It is absolutely fantastic. You know, and like I said, especially when they, you know, if it's ties, it's life changing for them.
What is your, like, if you don't mind me asking, what is your personal thoughts on the 3 rounds and the 5 rounds? Are you a purist?
I've got to be honest. I've always been a purist. I've always loved Muay Thai. You know, I've loved the 5-round concept. I've loved the Y crew, and then the first time I really came across like a 3-round thing with the MMA gloves was actually Martin Horgan did a show with John Wayne Parr. Well, obviously the Cage Kings, what they called them. It was Cage Muay Thai or something. So he put a show on in Ireland, and obviously John Wayne Parr came over, and there was me, it's Chris Podesta and Daz Morris, sort of officiating and someone else, and all of it, we're like, this won't work. This is, you know, MMA gloves in a Thai boxing fight. This is ridiculous. All against it. You put Irishmen in MMA gloves in a cage and fighting Muay Thai. Wow. I mean, absolute wow. I mean, some of the fight, well, every fight was just phenomenal. So that was the first time I truly saw something like that. And I've got to be honest, I mean, and in fact, we mentioned again, Kyle, in fact, I mentioned Joe Culver as well. They wanted to put, they were doing promotions a few, right? Oh.
Yeah.
They're doing promotions quite a few years back now. And they said about maybe doing Muay Thai and MMA gloves in a cage. And I was going, that's a stupid idea. And sort of on me going, that's actually a crazy idea. They never did. Like now it's, you know, but after Martin's show, you know, that, I mean, I was like, my attitude changed to, okay, it's much more exciting. But I was still a purist. I still like the skill of Muay Thai and you know, the way that, you know, people can control a fight. But then I think more and more as we've gone along, and especially after, you know, ones and I say Max Muay Thai or Thai Fight, all of those, the proof's in the pudding. They're the ones that are successful. They're the ones where fighters are making more money. You know, that's that I think is where most people want to head now. So I would say I'm a changed man. I think I prefer that from a fighter's point of view and a fan's point of view. I still love 5-round Muay Thai. I still think there's a place for it. But you can see how even like the Thais have embraced the 3-round format now and realised that this is more exciting. So if I really had to pick, I think I'm more a fan of the 3-rounders now. Yeah.
I was just thinking about what you were just saying there. Obviously, you got RWS as well, Raja World Series, which is where they're actually competing in the traditional sense of using, well, it's a 3-rounder still, but they're using the 10-ounce gloves, right? So get away from me.
Cat's in charge of film.
Yeah, exactly. The step on the stop button. And obviously, like, I remember the last time I was coming through Bangkok, and it was like big screen and saying that, you know, Raja was there before Lumpini. You know, like they're trying to make a statement at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think as well. Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's always been a real competitive edge between Rajadhani and Lumpini, I guess. But I think, in light with the deal happening with one at Lumpini as well, I think that really pushed things. But I mean, it's good to see though. It's good to see that in Thailand, that Muay Thai is progressing, and I mean, sort of constantly repeat myself, I guess. But you know, from that, there's more money for the fighters. There's more, there's more opportunities, more exposure. When you look at, you know, the Rodtangs or the Stamp Fair Tax or the Superlex or, you know, John Haggerty, you know, or Liam Harrison, they're named outside of Muay Thai. You know, people have heard of them. That's a good thing. That's, you know, it's fantastic because again, it brings exposure to the sport, and you know, sort of from our level, if you like, people walk into our gym who maybe just heard about it and want to try. So there's always that sort of filtering down process. So, yeah, I think it's. I mean, I think and also competition is always good, isn't it? I mean, I think even any promotions, I mean, yeah, they're all constantly trying to make, you know, better each other. And yeah, but RWS is obviously getting a lot of, you know, a lot of sort of exposure now and doing really well. So.
Yeah, they have the DAZN contract as well, right? So it's like, so it's good. And with obviously with the MMA gloves, I mean, like, to be honest with you, when I'm watching one championship and I see a kickboxing bout come on, I literally just want to skip forward because they're not wearing MMA gloves.
Yeah.
So it's like
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah,
it's strange, isn't it? It's like when we're watching it, if there's a kickboxing, I go, oh, okay. And it's weird, isn't it? Because if that whole show, if the MMA gloves were never on, we would just be thinking every fight. But it just shows you the difference that having MMA gloves on, yeah, it does. I mean, it changes the whole concept of the fight. And obviously with Muay Thai, it's always been about, you know, effect and you know, okay, it's sort of a balance and everything else, but you know, ultimately you're scoring on what's effective. And as I said, normally when you got punched in the face in an 8-ounce glove, you know, if you didn't go down, or you know, it wouldn't really show effect. Whereas now it's like you can see an effect straight away. So that's where I think it's really changed the game. And yeah, there's a lot more possibilities of knockouts. I mean, you're seeing people get knocked out with one shot after being dropped a few times themselves, and it makes it exciting. It has to be said.
So do you think there's a chance or possibility that there could be a consideration of removing the boxing gloves from kickboxing to the MMA for one?
I don't know.
I wonder if it's been spoken about.
I don't know. I mean, it's yeah.
There must be a whole bunch of us saying that. No, I'm going to.
I mean, so it's a good point actually. I don't know why they have to wear the. I generally don't. Maybe I'll ask tomorrow. Yeah. I'll ask. Yeah, I'll ask Rob. Yeah. But yeah, I genuinely don't know, because I suppose when you think about it, the MMA and the Muay Thai are in 4 ounces. It's strange that the kickboxing isn't. But, yeah.
And obviously, there's a big show in America coming up in Denver, and you got Haggerty and John Haggerty and Liam Harrison on the same bill. I suspect there's going to be some kind of face-off between them. I'm sure I'm not the only person saying this. I mean, it's like there must be some degree of intention behind this, because obviously there's a bit of needling going on at the moment. But and obviously I don't want to go into that, but it does make the sort of make it a little bit exciting, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, I think if we throw Nico Corello into the mix as well, I mean, how cool is it that there's, you know, I mean, obviously, you know, I like and respect all three of them, and I actually, you know, I think they're all amazing. And I think, you know, every time someone says to me, "Who do you feel win?" I don't want to answer, because I genuinely don't want to answer. You know, but I think what's really good. Hello. The only thing I can say, which is a bit of a shame, you know, a strange thing to say, but I guess, but it's a shame that like Liam Harrison isn't like 10 years younger, sort of, as in, you know, even though he's still bloody good, you know, if you imagine he was the same age as Nico and John, those three, then I think, because oh wow, it'd be just amazing. But I mean, obviously Liam, you know, in my opinion, has done so much for this sport, and is arguably one of the best fighters this country's ever produced. And you know, it's brilliant to see that he's kind of got the rewards for that, even so late on in his, you know, his fighting life, I guess. But you know, I think, and obviously, you know, I think, you know, obviously him versus Sexan, obviously that's, is that on the American one?
Yes.
Yes, it's Sexan in it. Yeah. I mean, wow. I mean, that's just going to be absolute carnage. You know, they're both just going to stand in front of each other and have it. So that's an incredible fight. Obviously, John against Superlek. Obviously, Superlek beat him when they were younger, but again, it was only after 2 rounds. Obviously, it's a cut. There's a little bit of controversy to it. But both obviously have improved a lot since then. So that's again, don't know which way that's going to go. You know, it really is a good fight. But and then I say, and Nico's in the mix as well, who's just phenomenal. You know, I mean, and it's, I mean, you sort of say about, you know, the needle between sort of, but it's actually, I mean, it's weird, isn't it? Because Muay Thai's never been the sort of sport that people trash talk. I mean, you know, look at Fury Usyk at the moment. So like, it's like, you know, people always boxing and MMA, you know, but Muay Thai's never been like that.
No,
and we don't really know. But it's almost like it's still kind of not really trash talk. By boxing and MMA levels, it's nothing. But the Muay Thai, it's actually, oh my God, it's not about. But how cool is it that we're talking about it? How cool is it that this is something that we're discussing about these three British fighters that are literally at the top of the game, the top of the level. That's fantastic, So I think we should be so bad. I mean, I think I don't know whether I could see John against Liam. I don't know if that would actually happen. I don't know, but I mean, I think everyone wants to see John versus Nico. I think that would be explosive. That would be absolutely explosive. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Like you said, I mean, if you go back to sort of WWE with the wrestling and stuff like that, it's always that, or UFC where, there's the aggravation between the two people is what builds up the hype. It's like boxing. That's always been, probably Muay Thai, it's always been, very respectful to one another, and maybe like now with I can't help it. I'm just at the end of the day, I'm a spectator and a fan as well, and like, I wonder what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
So I can't help that. So and then obviously the speculation around now that one championship, obviously like Chatri Sitcho Chong is an amazing businessman, and he saw a market in the world as such for developing a sporting foundation in Asia that now seems to be taking over the world and surpassing UFC, etc. It's quite phenomenal, and it's you could put it down to the excitement of these fighters. I mean, like, people get bored when they see people go to the ground and start, unless you've got a, unless you're a purist of some kind, you can understand what's going on there. A lot of people watching it are like, and they get them back up and start striking again, and now you've got one FC, and that's exactly what you got. You got 3 rounds of 2 guys going absolutely at them, at each other.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts?
I think. I mean, I'm not a massive fan of MMA. I mean, I don't mind watching it. I'm not, I think the thing with the One Lumpini show, because it's predominantly Muay Thai people, they always put a few MMA fights on first. I'm sure you've seen it.
Yeah, you skip that.
And it's. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's been some amazing fights, and you're right. I've done a little bit of BJJ, so I can kind of, you sort of understand a little bit of what's going on when they're on the floor. But I think the dynamics change. Whereas when they do the main shows, where there's more, normally it might be more MMA than there is Muay Thai or kickboxing. There's more of a MMA crowd, so the atmosphere is a lot different, and it does seem to be a bit more when the MMA fights on all cheering for it. Whereas I've noticed on the Friday ones, the crowd don't seem to be as behind the MMA as they are the Muay Thai. So I mean, like I said, though, sometimes there's some amazing fights in the MMA, but I think you're right. That's one of the kind of reasons why I probably wasn't really a big fan of MMA. Is they go to the floor, they're rolling about. Obviously they're working, they're hard. And it's hard work, but from a spectator's point of view, I'm a little bit bored.
Yeah, but then with the Denver bill, there's predominantly Muay Thai, right? So obviously the escalation of the sport, which is great.
I tell you what, it has been interesting actually. I've seen obviously a few has been the wrestling, the submission wrestling, and I actually really enjoyed that. I mean, it's actually because I don't know, it's quite cool that they're going in obviously with no gloves and no gum shield or anything, and they're just like, and it's actually a lot. It's almost like there's a lot more skill level to the submission grappling one than there is MMA when they're on the floor, if that makes sense. Because obviously when at MMA they're punching or whatever, but obviously the grappling not allowed to punch anyone.
Yeah.
So you're seeing more skill from that, which someone who's never really, like I say, I've done a bit of BJJ, but apart from that, I've not really done much. I probably appreciated that more than the MMA fights.
Right. So obviously with so many officials from the UK being called to one, and I had a brief conversation with you about officiating in the UK. It's like, and you were speaking to me about the IBMTO,
right,
and how that's been affected.
Yeah, I mean, I think first off, I mean, as far as officials from the UK on one, I mean, there's only, I think, 5 or 6 of us. I'm trying to think, like I said, I think me, Chris Batch, Ricky Saul, Rich Robinson, I say Jack Kennedy, Connor Phillips, and I would say Richard Wayne's out now. So maybe 7 that I can think of off the top of my head. and I mean, what they like to do is obviously get officials. There's a lot from Australia or America or Canada. So it stops any kind of worrying about any kind of, you know, like but yeah, it's a sad thing to say, but obviously one of the downsides of Muay Thai in Thailand was obviously the gambling, when people can be influenced and so on. So judges can, so that's why they get officials from elsewhere, is then that problem won't be there. So yeah, I mean, I think with the IBMTO, sadly, I think it just started to fall down by the wayside. I think probably a few reasons, but I think, me personally, I felt the IBMTO was a brilliant idea. Obviously started when there was a bit of a issue with the UKMF, and a few of us got asked to kind of leave, and so yeah, it's obviously Tony Myers.
Because I was going to ask you, that was one of my next questions. Yeah. How did it start?
Oh, well, yeah, well, basically, yeah. I mean, so what happened was, I think I think Tony had sort of been thinking about doing something, sort of all the referees, sort of officials within the UKMF. And then there was a particular fight where, sadly, there was blatant corruption. I can't disguise it. I've spoken openly about it before. It's something I witnessed, something I spoke out about, and then kindly asked to leave the UKMF because I spoke out about it.
Right.
And in turn, a few of us left. So then what happened was, I think Tony, I think there was Daz Phillips, Kev Harper, Sean Boland, obviously myself. We all sort of formed the IBMTO, and it was solely supposed to be about officials. Nothing, there's no sanctioning body, no politics. It's just about judges and referees. So that's kind of how it started, and then it went from there. And more and more, you know, we started to get a good reputation, and everyone was like, "This is great. This is what we want," and it was fantastic. In my opinion, I think it started to kind of go down a bit when Sean Boland left, because Sean kind of was the organisation. I mean, you know, anyone knows Sean, you know, a brilliant referee, but also a stickler for just getting everything right and being, you know, on time and everything in order. So when he left, we kind of missed that a bit. You know, obviously the other guys, I mean, I'm rubbish at organising things, but, you know, did their best and obviously still tried to keep it going and everything else, but it just didn't, it was a bit harder. And then I think slowly but surely people started to leave and wanted to do everything. I think then John Pop obviously started his own set of officials, and then so everyone started moving on a bit. And I think to be honest, you know, with running a gym and everything else, I just didn't have time to commit to it really. And so I, in the end, just went, look, you know what, I'm done. I'm on my own. And so that's what's kind of happened with the IBMTO, which is a shame. But so now we've got a situation where the officials are kind of all sort of working for whoever they want to, but there's still kind of an element of most people who work with the IBMTO still have the same ethos, you know, like no head contact for anyone under 16 and stuff like that, and just trying to make sure we're still kind of officiating to the best of our abilities. I mean, one of the things, and you've probably got a question already on it, but obviously myself and Chris Batchador have been writing a refereeing seminar.
Funny, that was the next
question. So we've been, I mean, do you know what, we put this together along with Team GB, Muay Thai GB, with Steve Broom. We'll write a seminar, we'll get a refereeing seminar, redoing a judging seminar as well, because obviously the old judging seminar was written by Tony Myers. You know, fantastic seminar, but there's a lot of things that are kind of outdated and mentioned about one and stuff like that. So kind of, I thought, how hard can it be? It has taken us so long. We don't I mean, me and Chris might be good refs, but we're both not very good technical stuff. So getting someone to do all the PowerPoint presentations and someone to do the videos and the filming and everything else. And so we're getting close. We're, you know, but we don't want to, it's almost like we don't want to launch it until we know it works and, you know, we're effective on that. So watch this space, but it's, you know, sadly you are dealing with two old men who just, we don't got a clue about technical stuff. So, but I mean, it's been fun doing it though. And actually it's interesting when, like on the refereeing one, when you start to go through everything that we do, you don't realize just how much we do, you know, just a simple thing of just, you know, what we do to prepare to come to a show, you know, what we should bring to a show, what we should, you know, we should be speaking to the promoters, we're speaking to the fighters, all these things which we do as a matter of course, and we don't really think about it. But when you're writing it down, you think, wow, it's a lot. and things that we think, you know, we just do naturally, wouldn't even think. Obviously, other referees wouldn't do that. I wouldn't consider that, and so, you know, and especially people who maybe haven't refed who want to get into it. So this is what this course is all about: is trying to train people who want to become refs, or you know, or just want to learn. Same with the judging, you know, sort of. So yeah, we're sort of doing that. But what we're trying to do as well is we don't, like I said, we don't want to be part of any organisation. We're just us. It's just me and Chris writing this. And so, if, for example, they ask, "Hey, want to employ us to do a course?" We can do a course. If you know, a Muay Thai GP want to employ us to do, we do a, you know, and we just charge the people, charge them the same.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we're at with that, really. So, but yeah, it has taken a long time. It's, you know.
Yeah, I've done 2 judging courses now. One with Sean Boland back in the day, and then one with yourself. And I failed both of them. And then someone pointed out to me, "You realise every first round is a 10-10." I'm like, "But he won that round, you know, like, no, 10-10." And so one of the hardest things for me to understand has been
Well, it's quite funny actually. There's a running joke on one because it's only 3 rounds, and with a 3-round fight, it's harder to give a 10-10 really, because, and so, I mean, I haven't given one 10-10 on one yet, but there's a running, we are allowed to, we can do, but it's almost like, yeah, it has to be like really can't split them, because the problem is if you've got a 10-10, then round 2's 10-9, then one's 9-10, you got to draw. So then but obviously you don't have draws, then you have to pick a winner and so on. So that's why you tend not to do a 10-10. But then saying that, what I will do, I've done many times, and a few other judges do, it might be quite a close round, but let's say I think Red slightly deserved it, I'll give it 10-9, but there's not a lot in it. But then round 2, Red might edge it, but not by much. So again, it's really, really close. You might go, okay, I'll give blue 10-9 to see what happens in round 3, because then it kind of, you get the right. Because I think what is frustrating is somewhat when people don't want to fight. If they've got a couple of knockdowns and stuff like that, and then they sit back and it's like, oh no, I've won. So but then we can still go against them anyway as well. So we got a bit of flexibility with the judging on one. But yeah, I think with the 10-10s, you've got to be pretty brave, because you know they're all going to rip the piss out of you. Ricky Saul does it all the time, but 10-10 for a laugh. Yeah.
Additional to my gym in Battersea, the classes are run by an application. The application itself has over 150 free workouts, and it covers basic combinations all the way up through to more advanced stuff, all your spinning stuff, etc., your jumping kicks, your jump back kicks, your flips and everything. So on that application, I have about 2,500 different combinations, plus another additional 800 training conditioning videos, which you can download onto your iPhone. It's called Circulate Fitness. It's got 10 free workouts, and if you like it, you can subscribe and take it from there. All you need is a punch bag and a bit of equipment, and you can go for it. A lot of the workouts you'll find are just body weight. So in the class descriptions, it tells you what you need, and this is pretty much stuff that you can get anywhere. The only thing that you will need is a punch bag. So whether you have one at home or at the gym, then you're ready to go. Anyway, back to the show.
So yeah, I think I can already think of one person, but let's talk fighters. Who for you has been the biggest influence, inspiration, spokesperson for Muay Thai, and why, past and present?
All right. So obviously I mentioned Liam Harrison. Yeah. I think you know, just because I think Liam was sort of realistically the first one to do it on such a big level, you know, and I think also what I love about Liam Harrison is he's like quite an incredible, humble guy, you know, and he's still, you know, you know, and you'll start again.
Sorry. Carry on, man. I just grabbed the cat before he bites the mic stand.
Oh dear.
But sorry.
No, that's cool. Yeah, as I say, yeah. So sort of started this again. Yeah. So basically, yeah, Liam Harrison, I think, has done so much for the sport, and you know, been there, done it many, many times. I think, you know, and now obviously getting more into the promoting as well with the Hitman Fight series. So he's definitely someone. I think sort of going back a bit. I mean, I suppose you have to mention Ronnie Green. Obviously, one of the first to really, you know, fight out in Thailand, do incredibly well in Thailand. It's quite funny when you watch his style. He's not really very Muay Thai style, you know, but he did incredibly well. And yeah, he was phenomenal, and I'd say probably one of the first. Other notable names that have done it, people like Damien Trainer, obviously. I was always a big fan of Peter Crook. I know that's more K1 rather than Muay Thai, really, even though he did fight Muay Thai as well, of course. He was more known for the K1, but again, such a high level. But I think, and in this day and age, of course, and now obviously we have to mention people like John Haggerty. We have to mention Nico Corello. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Liam Nolan. I really like him. But then even other kids coming through. I mean, when you look at Alfie Pearce and what he's doing, when you look at Joe Ryan and what he's doing, when you look at Anthony Deary, some really good lads there, you know, young lads. They're only like 17, 18, 19 or whatever. And, you know, they're absolutely smashing it. And so it's really good to see, I think throughout the ages, some, you know, sort of real good influences. But I think, yeah, I think probably the first name come out of the hat would be Liam Harrison, I think.
Yeah. I used to, was it Night of Combat or something like that? It used to be on Channel 4 in the late night.
Oh, yeah. Ali Jacko show, wasn't it?
Yeah. And I used to remember seeing Liam Harrison and Damien Trainer and Andy Howson.
The Wakelings as well.
Yeah. I used to see them, and that was before I even put a glove on myself and experienced it. So we're going back a long time, and you know, like Liam stuck it out for so long. And yeah, I mean, I'm really glad that, you know, he's stuck in it, and you know, he's been a success story for himself, and you know, he's doing really well in that regard. I knew I should have kicked you out into the other room. What dream bouts would you like to see? And I think we've probably already.
Oh wow, yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, obviously the ones that everyone sort of wants to see. I mean, yes, definitely. I think for the British fans, Nico against John, I think is something that everyone would love to see. Cat's gone.
Cat's gone. Yeah.
Yeah. I think. What else is there? I mean, obviously, looking at one. I mean, any of the mix of. I mean, everyone's sort of saying about maybe Rodtang Superlet too, but I think Rodtang's just that little bit too small.
Yeah.
You know. But I think wouldn't mind seeing a third fight between Rodtang and John.
That's what I was.
Yeah, I think that would be quite interesting. Because it's funny actually. I watched it not long ago. Actually, the first one. You don't realise how close the first one was.
Yeah. Well,
you know,
you could have given it to John, I reckon.
I mean, I think under the criteria and how they got, yeah, I mean, Rodtang did win it, but I know what you mean, and it was close enough. But the second one, obviously, you know, went the way it did, and I think, I don't know, a third one would be interesting. I don't know what other dream matches. No. I mean, to be honest, it's already made, but I would have said Liam Harrison, Sexan, definitely, because just those two.
The styles, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Toe to toe. Who's your favourite fighter of all time? And did you get to meet them or train with them?
I don't know. I mean, I think Thai-wise, I mean, like a lot of people, I used to love Burkow, but I've never, obviously, trained him. I mean, I once worked when he fought Jordan Watson. I was working as a runner, so I got to escort him to the stage. But Burkow probably was one of those I used to really like. Was a sort of big fan that way. I think England or British fighters. I literally just mentioned him a little bit then, but I was always a big Steve Wakeling fan. I used to read, well, both Steve and Michael Wakeling actually, but I think more so Steve. I just loved just how he fought and how controlled he was and how strong he was. So I always used to be a big fan of his. I don't know. I mean, there's so many good fighters out there, you know. I mean, I was funny enough, sort of quite a big fan of Gary Turner. But obviously, he was more kickboxing rather than, even though he fought a bit Muay Thai, because he was a friend as well. But I used to always look up to him, and just the man just could not be knocked out. He was just so tough. It was incredible and incredibly fit and incredibly clever as well. Very intelligent fighter, you know. It was, so yeah, I used to like him as well. So yeah.
So I just want to get on to the thoughts on the weight cuts and stuff like that. As far as I know, one have imposed some kind of rule around weight cuts. What do you think the maximum a fighter should be cutting from their natural body weight to?
Do you know what? Sadly, there's not a good answer for that because everyone's different. Genetics are different. I've had some fighters who will walk around a kilo over their fight weight, and others will walk around about 12 kilos over their fight weight, and both make weight, both be fine, both. You know, so sometimes the percentage-wise doesn't really work for individuals. I think obviously with one doing the hydration tests are quite a good thing because I think that seems to have solved a lot of the problem, as in people aren't completely dehydrated, so they have to be at a certain level. Don't even ask me how they do it. I don't understand the science in it.
How does it work then? Is it like a specific, they get weight,
I think
is it the day before the fight or on the day of the fight?
Yeah, I think it's the day before. Yeah, I think it's the day before. I think so. Don't quote me on this because I don't have anything to do with that side. So if I get it wrong, but I think that it's more a case of obviously just checking. What I mean, you probably noticed obviously what WBC do. You can do it over here. So if they've got a fight, they'll check people's weight. I think 2 weeks out or a week out or something like that. I'm not sure again of the timeline. But making sure, so I don't know, for example, if you're fighting at 67, like 2 weeks out, you've got to be 75, 1 week out, you've got to be 71, I don't know, whatever it might be. So the idea is you're not losing a lot of weight on that last kind of cut. I mean, for me, again, probably experience the same as a trainer of fighters. I mean, you want to obviously try and get them light as possible, but still keep them strong, keep them healthy. And it is trying to get that. I mean, for example, I try not to have my fighters sauna. It's almost like the sauna's the last resort.
Yeah.
You know, I like to water load. I think it's a safe way of doing it. And but obviously there are times when they may have to go in the sauna and try and take off an extra half kilo or whatever. But I try to avoid that. But I think safety's important. I think like again, going back to one with the hydration tests, you know, it just adds a bit more safety to it. You know.
There's obviously, I mean, I witnessed someone lose 6 kilos in a couple of hours from doing salt baths, and the effect on that person was that they got dropped in the first round. They maintained to fight the rest of the fight, but they effectively lost the fight.
Final quick ad. On July the 6th this year, obviously, at the Queen Mother Sports Centre in Victoria, London, we are holding an N-class event. So that's like novice level. Muay Thai, kickboxing, K1 and boxing. And that's going to be starting at 12 and running through till 6:30. So if you want to come and support, or if you're a gym or a club or a fighter and you're interested in participating, if you'd like to put your name forward, please get in touch. The details are in the description below. All right, thanks a lot, guys. Back to Jess.
But it was funny actually. You mentioned 6 kilos. One of my old fighters, Joe Colville, he I think 6 days out had done like 12 kilos to go, and on the day, again dropped 6, and he fought Tom Watson, like you know we was an MMA fighter. I think Tom was out of kettles actually. And obviously,
I trained.
And Joe got in there, and for two and a half rounds he did all right, and then he just went, ugh, and there was nothing there, literally nothing, and he was absolutely drained. You know, and it just shows. And of course, then when you find out the science, you know, it's almost like the danger, the health risks of it. You know, obviously the water around the brain, it doesn't have time to rehydrate, so hence there's more chance of, you know, brain bleeds and stuff if you're dehydrated. And so I think that's where I think more and more promoters are getting a bit more sensible. And to be fair, even trainers, a lot more trainers are now realizing there's better ways of doing it. And,
What would you advise for a healthy weight cut?
I mean, like I said, I always think water loading is, you know, seems to be. I mean, there's obviously different methods people like to do. Some like to gradually bring it down, so like they might be taking 6 litre water, like I don't know, 7-8 days out, then drop it down to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, whatever. Others will just do 6, 6, 6, 6, then drop it last day. But I seem to find that I mean, obviously, there's the other sort of dietary requirements. You know, I mean, it sounds stupid thing to say, but you know, I used to have a fighter once who, like, he put on his Insta that he's eating blueberries and pancakes. Yeah, I'm on weight cut, and you kind of go, like, you know, I'm drenched in maple syrup, and you're there going, what? And it's like sometimes they think they're being healthy, but it's probably not great for their diet.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm very lucky that I've got a really good nutritionist at my gym who helps a lot of the boys with their and girls with their weight. Because I'll be honest, again, I'm not an expert on that, and I you know, things I'm good at, but the things I don't really know much about, I tend not to have too much of an opinion on it. Like I said, what I've seen, most of the guys seem to do really well water loading, and it just drops. You know, that last couple of days, it just comes off quite easily. Hot salt bath maybe a night before they go to bed, and maybe one in the morning. So, but as I said, I try and avoid the sauna because I mean, just it's the worst thing really out of everything, you know, and it makes them feel shit. And
Yeah, I mean, like with salt baths and that, people would tell me about salt baths. I always say, well, you should condition yourself to be able to take it, because if you do it, you might not like the after effect of it. And it's like anything. I think you have to even train yourself to do those things so that your body can stay strong.
Yeah, I always love it when you get someone who hasn't really sauna before. In fact, I did have a fight. I won't mention his name because he's quite well known, but the fight, first ever fight, and he was like, he said, I've got 2.5 to go. Oh, darling, he's in the sauna, easy. And I literally went, oh, okay. And of course, I mean, he lost about 0.4 in the sauna. It was like dying. And it's because they don't realise how hard it is. And it's horrible. I mean, I sit in a sauna. I've been a sauna buddy for guys cutting weight, and I'm there drinking water going, I've got to get out of here. And, and it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. So, yeah.
There's also like, I mean, I remember when on my first trips to Thailand, there was a Swiss fighter there. And every time he was cutting weight, he was running around in a sweatsuit with the ties. You know, obviously the ties they're acclimated to that kind of environment and everything. And he would literally his body would go into organ failure kind of thing from the heat and the exhaustion. And then he would always have to end up pulling out of the fight.
Yeah.
And I think it's just like, you know, I think you got to be careful when you step into doing these kind of things at the health risk, right?
Exactly. I mean, it's even things like, you know, I mean, obviously when they're kids or young or like novice fights, you know, of not making cut too much weight. I mean, at a lower level, you know, maybe look if they're going to drop a kilo, if it's that's fine. But I mean, a kid, don't get me started on people weight cutting kids. That just angers me so much.
Right.
And I've seen it, sadly, even in this country. You know, a lot of people try and weight cut their kids, and it's like, you know, you're talking about like a 12-year-old who's 38 kilos and trying to drop him to 35 or something. You know, so they're going, what are you doing? So yeah, I do get annoyed at that, to be honest with you.
When do you think fighters should start weight cutting? I mean, like I'm putting on this N-class event. I'm doing the weigh-in on the day because I just don't want people really doing that kind of weight cut kind of thing for N classes when it's more of an amateur kind of event.
I mean, yeah, I mean, sadly, obviously, I'm putting on, we're doing them the day before, but the reason why more is I just find it saves a lot of hassle on the day. Right. So, you know, everyone's weighed in and stuff. And it's good, I think, from the other side of the coin. I get where you're coming from, but the other side of the coin, it gets fighters used to knowing, okay, this is where I can weight cut. So get more used. Because sometimes you might get a situation where sometimes 3 or 4 fights all weighed on the day, and their first fight day before, they still have the same mentality, and then fight someone who's obviously cut weight and so gets in the ring 2 or 3 kilos heavier naturally. So there's the other side of that coin. I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, obviously, I try, it's to say with my guys, I mean, I can't really speak for mine. I mean, I tend to try and whatever they're weighing, like now training wise, I'm go, okay, I'll put you out maybe a kilo less or you know, the first fight, I literally will go just a little bit to lose. So just more, to be blunt, just the training and the dieting and just eating healthily, they'll drop anyway.
Yeah.
You know, rather than go, you've got a fighter who's walking around at 72 kilos, I'm going to put him at 65, you know, his first fight. I'll probably just go, okay, well, you fight at 71 and we'll just see how we go. And so I think it's important to be a bit sensible. Obviously every coach wants to get the edge. Everyone wants to win. And so I suppose there's that other side of it where people are trying to pull everything they can to get every advantage. But I think there's also part, as a coach, we have to be responsible. We have to kind of make sure that our fighters are safe and healthy.
Yeah. Which kind of leads me on to, in the USA, obviously, they're a lot more stringent, even with that amateur events. Brain scans, blood tests, dentistry, etc. Like they have everything in place for even to participate in an amateur event. Do you think the UK could tighten up their kind of ruling around that?
I mean, I think always. I mean, the difference in America, of course, you've got commissions, so we don't really have that here. So we haven't got, even with the boxing, with the Bishop Boxing Board of Control, for example, they oversee it. Muay Thai, we don't really have that. We don't have any of that. So it's only sanctioning bodies that technically will say, right, okay, you have to do this, have to do that. The problem is, you can always improve safety. You can always improve, making sure no one gets hurt, and there's always other things we can do. I mean, I think, generally speaking, I think the medical cover at shows now is brilliant. I think the fight medics, most used around the shows are brilliant, absolutely brilliant, and they're really clued up, know what they're doing. I've done some amazing work. So I think we've moved on a lot from, say, even 10 years ago. I mean, I remember going to shows and I'd be reffing, I'd be like, okay, about to start the show, where's the medic? So it's John over there sitting in having a coffee, and I'm like, what? So there's an element where we are a lot more professional now. Do I see it happening? I don't know. I really don't know. But I think, if we did get, a commission of sorts in the country, the best people to do it would be the Muay Thai GP, because obviously, at least then that's what they're trying to do, is trying to make sure everyone's under the same umbrella. But it's always very hard because, sadly, in the sport, there are egos. There are people who don't work with people, and there are, so that's always frustrating them, because then, we should be all working under the same sort of umbrella, really. Because then if we were, then again, it'd be a case of going, okay, promoters, you've got to provide this particular health cover or so on. But then that leads us on to expense. So obviously, all the things you mentioned about, obviously, scans and blood tests all cost money. So that money has to come, obviously, either from the fighter or the promoter. A lot of times, like I think in the States, normally it's the fighter's responsibility rather than the promoter's responsibility. So of course, it's. I mean, I had a fighter fight. I can't remember where she. I want to say it's a girl fighter had fight abroad once, and she had to provide like blood tests and all sorts. And we had to pay for it all herself, and I think it cost her a couple £100. And she was literally getting paid like £300 or something. It was like, well, so I mean, that's the other thing, which, sadly, as much as health and your safety is worth more than anything, people will still stop and go, well, I don't really want to pay that money. I think the bigger promotions maybe could afford to pay it. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think from one point it would be nice to see. It would be nice to see that, we're as safe as possible. Everything's covered. I mean, again, what I've noticed a lot in the UK now, more and more, is post-fight medicals now, which is brilliant. No one ever used to do that. You had your fight, you dropped a couple of times, the world's spinning, you go straight to the bar and get a beer. Whereas now, no, you get you have your medical, and I think, again, credit has to go to, I think sort of the first sort of shows I saw doing this was obviously like Muay Thai Grand Prix and the Hitman, and I think like CFS and those sort of guys are all doing it now. Everyone's getting a post-fight medical, which is good. I mean, obviously on one they do that, and I think most promotions should. I mean, that's important.
At one championship, what's the process before fighting? Is there any medicals?
I presume so. I don't. Again, sadly, I don't get involved in that side of things. So, I mean, I'm pretty certain there's medicals. I mean, obviously, I see the post medicals, obviously, because the post medical room is right next to the officials' room. So we might come out for a break, and you just got a couple of fighters there like, getting attended to. But I watched an interesting interview the other day. I don't know if you saw it with Dana White from the UFC, and he was just basically saying about medical cover in the UFC and actually what the UFC does. And I think one's on a par with that as well, But what he was explaining was that, in UFC, it's a lot safer than boxing because, again, they're much stricter on the medical side of things. And I think another argument as well, which has always been said as well, if you have a 12-round boxing fight in boxing gloves, there's 12 rounds of concussive, constant brain shaking. Whereas you got 4-ounce gloves, only 3 rounds. There's not as much damage, bizarrely, as it would be over the 12, and there's more chance for knockout. And obviously, if you get a one-punch knockout, there's actually less brain trauma than there would be of being hit over the 12 rounds. So there's a very, very valid argument with a lot of science behind it to show that 3-round fight of MMA gloves is actually a lot safer than doing a 12-round boxing fight with 10-ounce gloves on. So interesting thought.
In the UK, obviously, we have N class, we have C class, B class, A class. I can only talk from my experience and how I perceived it. But when I went, when you travel to America, anything below A class is regarded as amateur. If I'm correct. I've found, even with myself, that I was too eager to get that pro record, which didn't give me enough building ground as an amateur record, like say with boxing, where you would have X amount of amateur fights before you consider going on to be professional, and you start with a clean slate. What's your thought? Because my personal thoughts is, I think anything below A class should be regarded as amateur. But what's your thoughts?
I mean, I think the first question you have to ask is, well, okay, what's the difference between amateur and professional, in the sense that, if you look to any other sport, a professional gets paid, an amateur doesn't. Right. That's normally the sort of the difference between the two. Me personally, and in fact, my next show, and I've copied this from people like Rob Allen, who does Diamond Fights, is every fight's full rules, but we do N Pro-Am, Pro-Am, and then A. So N Pro-Am is shin pads, big gloves, elbow pads on, no knees to the face. That's the only thing we take out of it. But you can obviously elbow. Then Pro-Am is no shin pads on, and you can knee the face, but you still got the elbow pads on. And then obviously A class. So it kind of then the same pretty much rule set. The only change, like I said, is no knees to head in the first one, because you might have real amateurs who put their head down and stuff. Whereas, so I think that's a better way to go. And because at least then, from that point of view, from the rules side of things, rather than taking something out, we're keeping most things in. As far as actually, I mean, I don't know whether it really matters, because ultimately you get someone who's fighting N class, but it's come in last minute, and the promoter's said, okay, I'll give you 200 quid if you take this fight. So technically he's a professional. And then I've seen A class fighters who've literally fought on a ticket deal and sold no tickets, and fought for free. And so again, I suppose it doesn't matter. It does ask the question of obviously what is pro, what is amateur. I mean, I know that. I mean, and again, I've never really been a massive fan of the amateur scene, like the IFMAs and things like that. I don't like head guards. I've got a real thing with that. But obviously, that's amateur. So then they go, well, this is amateur. This is all the head guard, the body shields. I mean, even adults with body shields on, head guards, elbow pads, knee pads. Look like a Michelin man. Just absolutely. So that's kind of an amateur thing. So I suppose it's coming down to, I mean, my head, I would say I would look at someone being pro from them not having shin pads on.
Yeah.
So I would say from C class onwards, just because they're fighting with no padding apart from the gloves. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's just I think it just comes down to your take on what's professional and what's amateur.
Yeah, I suppose my thinking of it, which I didn't explain probably very well, is just having that clean slate to start with. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, we see no, that winds me up. When people go, yeah, he's had 2 pro fights. Okay, how many amateur? Oh, 27. Yeah. And I mean, that annoys me. I mean, I've always, with my fight, I put fight out, I'll say they've had 2 ultra boxing, they've done 1 MMA fight, they've done this, but others will go, no, 0 fights. And you go, you've got to be honest about records. I mean, by all means say, okay, he's not had a pro fight yet, just had a couple of N class and whatever. That's fine, but I don't like it when people don't mention.
Would you regard N class as an amateur fight? Would it go on the record? I mean, like in the clubs, you get guys that are like 12 in the clubs. And
I mean, in the clubs I wouldn't bother. I mean, no, in the clubs are just, it's like a hard sparring session, really. So I mean, I wouldn't. I mean, normally, if I give out fighters something, if it's a novice fighter, I might say, oh, he's had a half a dozen interclubs. I might not even really know. I mean, you try and put. I mean, with the kids. I mean, obviously, kids can have loads of fights. They'll be fighting a couple of times a day, and so they can rack them up quite quickly. But yeah, no, I wouldn't really count it in the clubs.
Actually, I had Sam, who helps me at the gym. He gave me quite a funny question for you, but on the last stint at the club, we didn't have enough people, so he stepped in 10 times, which reminds me of a time that you did a charity event.
Oh my God, yeah.
You basically didn't like a call out to anyone to come and spar you, right?
Yeah, it was stupid. No, it was good. What it was actually a friend of mine, Brett Trevor. He used to fight for Woking Thai. He's still involved there. His son's actually someone to look out for, actually, Billy. But his niece sadly passed away after only a couple of days. She had a very rare condition, and the mum, so Brett's sister, was obviously doing lots of charity work and trying to raise awareness of this and stuff. So I just thought, and I'd heard someone else had talked about doing like a sparring day, like 50 rounds of sparring. And I thought, well, let's do that. Let's do it. So we decided to do it. I mean, this was easily 10 years ago, probably longer than that, probably 12, 13 years ago. And I got, do you know what was interesting? Was, I mean, we did, as I say, 53-minute rounds, minute rest, and there was a 20-minute break after round 25, so we go to toilet stuff. And all my guys tried to kill me. Other people came from other gyms. I ended up doing rounds with people like Alex Foreman and Chris Knowles and people like that. And I'm like, they were lovely to me. But yeah, I mean, people like Kyle and I don't know who else, it was Hayward or Sam or whatever. They were just trying to kill me. So, but it was fun. I mean, I think I didn't realise how hard it was going to be. And I think about round 30 something, I mean, I had cramp. I mean, I like to, we've sparred in the past. I like my teep, and that's all I live on. And on my hamstrings they was cramping like crazy. So I couldn't teep anymore. My right bicep cramped. So I'm like, by about 5 rounds to go, I was literally just a walking punch bag and just getting bad. But it was fun. It was good laugh, So yeah, wish I could do that again. But
raise money, that's good.
Yeah, no, it was nice.
Things we do for charity.
Yeah, no, it was good fun and it was a good call. So
I've only got a couple more. Actually.
That's cool.
That's because I put that thing out for people to ask me any questions I could ask you, and I had one from Sam McRae, who's one of my instructors. He was talking about when you got someone in a lock, and if inadvertently that person passes out from the lock, would that be a win? Would that be a win, or would that be classed as a knockout? Or
well, it would be a win. Yeah. I mean, it's funny you say that. I won't mention the fighter's name. These two fighters are both big names actually, but there was a while back in their careers. But there was a fighter from England went to fight in Ireland, and really lovely guy, really good fighter now. But he was probably a lot lower level back then. He ended up fighting in Ireland, and I was actually judging. I think Daz Morris refed it, and the lad from Ireland locked him up. And the English lad didn't know what to do, just panicked and actually was sort of tapping. And the ref was like, "What are you doing?" And then he just threw him and stuff. But it always made me laugh because it was more like that whole shit. I've never been in this position before. But all credit to this fighter now. He's a really good fighter now. But if someone's got a lock on and they just collapse, they're tough. They've lost. I mean, one of the things I've always loved about Muay Thai is technically we shouldn't have a no contest, so unless something really bizarre happens, like the ring collapses or, and I've always loved that, the fact that, I know when I love the Thai mentality where there's a clash of heads, and it's an accidental clash of heads and one fighter's got cut. Now, if the ref deems it's accidental, then if you can't carry on because of the cut, and it's almost like the Thai mentality, well, you're weak because you got cut, whereas obviously if someone's gone in and headbutted them and it's a deliberate, then of course you disqualify them. So it's either a disqualification or it's So I kind of like that sort of black or white rather than, I don't know, we should maybe call this a no contest. And it's like, why? So I do kind of like that. Yeah.
Jesse, thanks so much for coming in.
That's cool, man.
I really appreciate you.
No, thank you.
I hope this podcast comes out and is legible.
Cheers, mate. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, that was fun.
Thank you, man.
That's all right.